Hello, welcome to the League of Women Voters of Howard County's 2024 General Election Forum with candidates for the Howard County Board of Education. I'm Laura Mettle, President of the League of Women Voters of Howard County, and I'm your host for this evening's forum. The League, the Columbia Alumnus Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and Iota Lambda Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated are pleased to co-sponsor this forum for the Board of Education, candidates running in the November general election. Thank you to Howard Community College for providing this lovely facility for us to use this evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I lost the slideshow. Okay. Sorry, Lemon. Okay. Side to side? Okay, thank you. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and liberty and justice for all. The general election is on Tuesday, November 5th, with early voting October 24th through 31st. Mail-in ballots may be ordered from the Board of Elections now and must be delivered or postmarked by close of business on November 5th, 2024. 9 candidates are running for the Board of Education among all 5 councilmanic districts. 2 candidates are running in each of Districts 1, 2, 4, and 5, and 1 candidate is unopposed in District 3. Larry Wilkins Doyle of District 2 and Julie Kaplan of District 4 declined to participate in this event. So tonight we will present 2 segments featuring the candidates from District 1 and District 5 respectively. Federal election and tax laws prevent us from holding empty chair forums for featuring a single candidate for contested office in a program. We regret that we are unable to bring you an exchange of views from the candidates for the District 2 and District 4 seats. Questions designed to reflect the concerns of Howard County citizens were prepared by a committee, and each candidate will be asked all the same questions in turn. No questions will be taken from the audience tonight. After both candidates have answered the question, they will each have 30 seconds to respond to their opponent. Each candidate will make a 1-minute closing statement at the end of their session. Please turn off your cell phones and any other recording devices at this time. No photography or recordings may be made in this session without the explicit permission of the League of Women Voters of Howard County. Our first moderator tonight is Valerie Montague, and this segment features the candidates from District 1. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura, and good evening, everyone. In this segment, we will hear from the candidates from District 1, Andre Gao and Meg Ricks. Andre Gao was born and raised in China during difficult times marked by food shortages and the Cultural Revolution. Despite these challenges, he persevered in his education and was admitted to a top university in China. He later moved to the United States to pursue graduate studies, earning PhDs in both economics and physics. Andre worked at the World Bank and other Fortune 500 financial companies for more than 30 years, holding managerial positions for nearly 20 of those years. He has been actively involved in volunteering at work, in community projects, and in his children's sports and youth activities. Andre has been a resident of Howard County since 2000. His 3 children all attended Howard County Public Schools. He cares deeply about the education of his children, his friends' children, and all students in the county. He is committed to providing all students with an excellent education to prepare them for the future. Meg Ricks is a community leader, education advocate, and mom of 3. Growing up on Chicago's South Side as a student receiving free and reduced meals, she has personally experienced the importance and power of public education to change lives. Meg and her husband came to Howard County for our world-renowned school system, but she knew the quality of schools depends on community support, so she got to work. Meg has served in many PTA leadership positions in her children's schools and with the PTA Council of Howard County. She served 4 years as the president of the Elkridge Elementary School PTA and as the first president of the Guilford Park High School PTSA. She has further served on multiple Howard County Public School System policy review committees, as well as the Board of Education's Operating Budget Review Committee, serving last year as co-chair. She has also spent hundreds of hours volunteering in Howard County schools, with her children's Girl Scout troops, and with the Elkridge Community Alliance. Meg holds a Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology from Brigham Young University and works as a teacher assistant at East Columbia Preschool. Thank you both for being here. And now, the timers are seated in the center of the front row, just in front of the stage. You will see a warning sign when there are 15 seconds remaining, followed by the red stop sign when time is up. I will now ask you a series of questions. Each of you will have 1 minute to answer each question. After you both have answered, you will each have 30 seconds to respond to your opponent or follow up on what has been said here tonight. Question 1. What actions will you take to address the impact of substance abuse in schools, especially related to learning, social development, and mental health? We will go in alphabetical order for the first question, so we will start with Andre Gao.
Yes, to address this problem, we first need to do the education. I think we need to educate the student in the school, but we also need to get the parents involved, so that first to let them know what is the impact of those substance abuse and what to the long-term career, to the study, to the school, and to the entire life. This is going to be a very big problem, and then also need to get parents involved, so that they in this home they can also to coordinate, to educate the children, to remind them, and also I think they can at home the parent can also work with them as well, and the community also need to work together and to set a good example for those children, and to lead them, to provide mentorship. All those are important, and we should have a school, the parents, and the community involved. And it's also important to have the student good student to influence each other, and to in that case among the students they can also set a good example.
Thank you, Mr. Gao. Ms. Ricks, same question.
Hello? Okay, there we go. All right. So one of the things that I've realized participating in PTA, we still have some of the same problems we've had years before, but now they're a little bit different. Students in the past may have been in bathrooms smoking. Today we have vapes, and a lot of students don't think of them as dangerous, or don't think of them the same way they would think of regular cigarettes. So I think we need to be sure that we're educating our young people about the dangers of things like vapes and other drugs that for some reason people don't think it's quite as a big a deal anymore as we used to think. And kids already are addicted, so we need to help them to connect to resources to help them to break addiction and to understand the long-term health impacts that these kinds of substances can lead to in their lives. We also need to involve the parents and help them as well, because a lot of students, they see what their parents are doing, and if parents are using substances that are not good for them, they may also be doing that as well. So involving the whole community is, I think, the best way to reach out, to get buy-in from multiple parties, and to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. How do we prevent weapons from being brought into school buildings to use against others? And this time, Ms. Ricks, you may respond first.
All right, thank you. So it is very important to keep our students safe. That is our number one responsibility. They cannot learn if they do not feel safe. So one of the things that our school system really does need to move forward with is securing our building vestibules. Some of our schools do not have the office up in the front of the building. There's more to the building before you actually get to the school office. And there's plans on the books to work to rearrange the building fronts so that they're secure, but that work is not completed. So we need to continue pushing to get those projects moved forward so that we don't have people able to easily or more easily get into the building who don't belong there. Secondly, we need to make sure that we keep our class sizes smaller so that our staff and our educators can get to know our students and help them as if they're having issues with one another, if they're having issues at home, if there's bullying going on, that they can help to intervene and to help solve problems before they become violent. And we need to continue to move forward with mental health services, access for our students. And as a community and as a nation, we make sure that we're doing common sense things regarding weapons and guns so that we don't continually have tragedy after tragedy. Thank you.
Mr. Gao?
So in a school, we really need to get the weapon out of school to make a student feel safe. I think one of the things is that we have policies, but we also need to have procedures that to help to prevent guns to bring into school. So we really need to know figure out how can we do that. I think one of the another thing is yes, we need to educate the student and to help them to dissolve the dispute or any of the conflict that they have in the school, so that they don't, if there's any disagreement, they cannot use the force or the weapon to resolve those things. We need to help them and to do that. I think the other things, yes, we do need to tighten up the school security. Recently, I went to the Elkridge Elementary School, talked to the parents. They have been saying that the school security monitoring system is not working well. They have been talking to the county school system for many years, but still they didn't get that monitoring system installed. I think we really need to help each school make a school safe.
I realize that I failed to give each of you an additional 30 seconds after the first question, and for that I do apologize. If either of you would like to respond to your opponent's response or have more to say on your own regarding either the question about substance abuse in schools or this question about weapons, please do so. Would either of you like to do so?
Yeah, we'll do it moving forward. How about? Sounds good.
I'll do it properly going forward. I apologize.
Yeah, I just want to add that on the weapons side, and we also need to get parents involved. That I don't think ordinarily those kids can get a weapon, but the parents should monitor the kids at home, do not allow them to access to the weapon. And if they notice anything, they can report it to school. And if the student, they notice that any of the peers appear to have a weapon or to be resorted to violence, they should report it to school as well.
Ms. Ricks?
Oh, okay. Yes, and I do agree. With rights comes responsibility. So folks that are gun owners should definitely be responsible gun owners. That's what my father always impressed upon me, and that was what he did as a gun owner. He always kept his weapons locked up and secured, and that is what we need to make sure is happening. Common sense things can help us move the needle on gun violence in our schools and in our nation. Thanks.
How would you ensure that our schools are welcoming and inclusive environments that support academic achievement for students, families, and staff from all backgrounds? We'll begin with the 1-minute answers with Mr. Gao.
Yes. So first, the thing we need to do in the school to be welcoming, inclusive, is to respect each other, and love each other is the first thing. I think love can resolve many of the conflict. So that we need to teach children they should love each other and respect each other. And then in the school, especially in Howard County, we have very diversified population and a diversified student, so that we may not do the things in the same way culturally. So we should learn and respect each culture, and also each regardless of the personal life or the family value, and we should all respect each other. And those need to be taught in the school. I think there are many things we can do in the school can learn diversified, diverse culture for different people around the world, for different religions and different ethnicities. All those can be taught in the school, and we can promote them as well through various programs.
Ms. Ricks?
Thank you. So as a public school system, we need to be welcoming, inviting to every student, regardless of their background, regardless of their parents, regardless of their faith, regardless of the language they speak at home. We need to be the place for every single student here in Howard County. We need to make sure that our students are free to learn and to read books and stories that act as mirrors so they can see themselves in the curriculum and in the books in our libraries, as well as windows to see into the lives and experiences of other people. And I think that's going to help them and all of us to understand one another better, and we can't hate each other when we know each other. We want to make sure that we're building a culture of respect in our school buildings and everywhere that our students go. And we can't shy away from difficult issues. We need to be able to teach our young people how to have conversations about difficult topics and difficult things, maybe with our history, maybe with what's going on in the world today, in a calm and compassionate way. Because that's how we're going to have any chance of having better dialogue, having better outcomes in our country, in our nation, our world, building that respect, building that ability to talk to one another, even about difficult things.
Mr. Gao, you now have 30 seconds to respond to your opponent or to add to your previous comments.
Yes, I also want to mention that in the school, we're not only going to teach students about those inclusion and make people feel good, safe to learn. And the teachers also need to be aware of that. Just in the last semester, there was an incident in one of the school. The teacher was teaching something, but she used culturally insensitive information or the material. So those teachers also need to be educated.
Thank you, Mr. Gao. Ms. Ricks?
Yeah, I think the other thing that we want to continue to encourage is civil participation in our school board meetings, and all those places where parents come and join us at school, and when our students are in other places as well, like at sporting events or at plays or other things. We want to make sure that those expectations are clear, that we expect our students to be following the guidelines and rules at all times.
Thank you. What are the factors that should be considered for attendance area changes, otherwise known as redistricting, and what should trigger that event? Ms. Ricks?
All right, this has been something that's been on my mind many, many years. As a family that lived in the Howard High School attendance area, at the time we were pushing 140% capacity utilization. Redistricting is really hard. It's disruptive and it's difficult to change. But my feeling is that an overcrowded school is not ideal for learning. So we need to make sure that we're keeping our schools within the capacity utilizations that they're designed for. So that would be, for me, the reason we would want to trigger a redistricting if that was what was necessary. And in any plan that we're looking at, that's going to be the primary thing that I would want to know. What will any changes do to our capacity utilization in all of our buildings? Will it improve that over a long period of time and not just for the short run? The other factors that are part of 6010, the policy on school attendance areas, which I was I was an alternate for that last policy review go around. The other factors help us to choose the best plan. There's a lot of ways to draw the lines, but we want to make sure that as we're utilizing capacity well and not having overcrowded schools, that we're not creating new problems like sending kids far from their own school where we have to bus longer periods of time, or that we're concentrating poverty, or that we are causing some other additional problems. Thanks.
Mr. Gao?
Yes, what triggers school redistricting, of course, it's a capacity. If a school is heavily overcrowded, then we need to consider to redraw the school attendance boundary lines. And the criteria I want to emphasize is to make students to attend this school in their own community, not to make the student to travel outside of the community, because that can create many problems. And first, it can weaken the connection to their own community by doing that. The other thing, to transport them further out, and we added to the stress to them because they have to get up early and to be transported for longer period of time. And the other things, if the student need to participate before school activity or after school activity, it will be very difficult for the parents to do that. So that, third thing is that if people attend a school in the different community, it's very difficult for them to make friends and to connect to the classmate. So that is also very detrimental to them.
Ms. Ricks, you now have 30 seconds to respond to your opponent or to add to your previous comments.
Thank you. Yes, to add to that, it is difficult when you're far from your school. That has been the experience our community has been having near where I live in Elk Ridge, not having a high school near us. It does make it harder to get to and from events and to stay after school. The other factors that I want to mention, walk zones. I'm a big proponent of being able to walk to school, and I don't want to move walkers if it is absolutely any way we can not move them, and I don't want to move the same students multiple times. That is important as well.
Mr. Gao, you have 30 seconds to respond to your opponent or to add to your previous comments.
Yeah, also to follow up on that, we all know that Elk Ridge, especially North Elk Ridge, is the only community that they don't have a high school, and then no one from there can walk to the high school. So I think that's from the equity point of view, those communities put in the disadvantage. Many other communities that have a high school near them they can walk to, but not in Elk Ridge.
Thank you. How do you plan to address school start times and schedules in a way that balances the impact on student achievement, family schedules, and teacher retention? We will begin with Mr. Gao.
Yeah, for the school start and ending time, it's always a challenge. To address that, we really need to get all the stakeholders' input to learn from the parents what will be the most challenging thing for them, and is in the morning or in the afternoon, and then also for the teachers, and so that teachers also have their own family to take care of, and then we also need to consider the student, because we don't want to shorten the student's sleeping time. So all those we should first to get input from the community, and then before we make decisions. So that is important. We can also have to learn from the other areas, other school system, to see how do they handle this. If there is any county or school system that are doing the better, or that satisfy all the stakeholders. So those are the things we can learn from them. And of course, we really need to get the community together to think about this.
Thank you. Ms. Ricks?
Yes, when my oldest was in high school, I definitely saw a difference when she started high school, and just the exhaustion level that she was experiencing. So it has been good that we were able to start school a little bit later for my second daughter. But unfortunately, we had to expand some of our walk zones or non-transported zones. And so I want to make sure that we're not having students, in the name of trying to get them some more sleep in the morning, actually having to get up earlier because they're too far away.
Mr. Gao, you have an additional 30 seconds if you'd like to take it.
Yeah, just want to follow that. For the starting time, and it will be greatly help if the student can attend the school in their own community. Making them attending school outside of community will even put more challenge on these topics. So that if they can, most of them, if they can walk to school, and then that will reduce the parents' burden to arrange the transportation.
Ms. Ricks?
Yes, I've been a big proponent for making sure that we're getting sidewalks built in communities that are close to schools. Like in Elkridge, we had on Montgomery Road some sidewalks added that got more than 300 students off the bus and able to safely walk to and from school. And I also want to make sure, as we're addressing start times that are too early for high school students, that we're not putting the burden on our younger students, having them have to start school too late. In that virtual year, when start times for my late starting elementary got pushed to 9:45, that was way too late.
Thank you. What is your plan for dealing with a deferred maintenance backlog on our aging school buildings to make them safe for students and staff? We'll begin with Ms. Ricks.
Yeah, this is such an important topic, and especially so important in District 1. We've had both very overcrowded schools, and we've had a lot of deferred maintenance in our schools as well. It's definitely not just in District 1, but throughout the county. Our buildings are only getting older, not younger, so it's going to be a growing problem, and we're not making a dent in that list, and we really need to. So I think we really need to get together with our community, with our funding partners at the state and the county level, to find new ways to get some revenue to move these projects forward. We can't have schools that are not accessible. We can't have schools that are not sized appropriately for the number of students we need to serve. And we can't have mold and rodents and things of that nature. That it's going to harm the health of our young people. So we need to do something different than what we've been doing. I'm very interested to hear what the details of a potential public-private partnership might be. I want to make sure that there's some kind of way to pay for the project that isn't just a promise that we'll pay later, because that is not going to happen. So between all of our community, hopefully we can come together and not just be fighting over scraps for our schools that are in desperate need of renovation, of repair, basically, and capacity issues.
Thank you. Mr. Gao?
Yes, this is really a problem because all my 3 children attended the school from elementary to middle school to high school. All those schools have portable classrooms. So total of them is more than 36 years they spend in school with portable classrooms. That is not acceptable for this wealthiest county in the country. And we really need to resolve those school construction problems and not use the portable class forever. And also in the, my children also attended a school, which is the Dunlogan Middle School. They have a mold problem. They have the problem with cockroaches and also have mice. I saw the picture that the mice come into the school to chew up those mats in the gymnasium, so that those mats has to be thrown away. That is a big problem. There are also other safety issues in the school. There's crowded hallway. They cannot walk. It's only one-way traffic, so they spend a lot of time to go into one classroom to the other. But then those really need to be addressed and resolved.
Ms. Ricks, you have an additional 30 seconds.
Yeah, I recently had the opportunity to visit Dunlogan and go to their PTA meeting, and their very dedicated PTA president showed me around afterwards, and we didn't have to look hard to find rodent droppings in the school. As a young person who attended a very old and very overcrowded school, I know that is not the environment that is conducive to learning. And I think especially when you have an old and degrading building that is also overcrowded, that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Mr. Gao, you have 30 seconds.
Want to say that to fix those schools, we really need to get funding from the county and the state. And to look at the county's budget over the years, the percentage of the funding goes to school has been dropping from 58% to 54%. I think we need to get that up so that we'll have more money available. We also need to make a wise use of a state matching fund.
Thank you. Final question. What steps will you take to support transparency of and accountability for decisions made that impact school operations and finances? We will begin with Mr. Gao.
For those, we need to make all the decisions transparent, so that we need to make the document that we use and to be available to the public, so that the things then we even we have a closed door discussion. Those content should be also available to the public after the end of the discussion, and so that that is important. Everyone in the school board should adhere to that. And just recently, we encountered a problem like a Zoom bus that contract. To make it transparent, if citizens to ask for that, then our school system should make available. But it's very difficult for the parents, even the file to get such a document. They went to state, but our school system is still stonewalling them. So that's a very bad example of transparency. We really need to address that, to start from there. And in the future, everything we need to do to be transparent.
Ms. Ricks?
Yes, we owe it to the community, we owe it to the law to follow every single Open Meeting Act regulation, laws about freedom of information. We need to be following the law, and we need to also be committed to a transparent and open process. We won't keep the trust of the community. We won't keep the trust of our county government. We won't keep the trust of our state delegation, and we need their trust. We need to have the trust of the community to be able to move forward and make sure that we're doing everything we can for our young people in Howard County. I don't think we can do this job without a commitment to being transparent and honest and fair. We won't be successful at it. We need to have every single person who cares about education, who cares about our young people on board to be able to move forward and to make sure that we're continuing to keep public education strong in Howard County, and that we're serving every single student with fidelity, and that we're following every applicable law so that there isn't any question and that there isn't any doubt.
Thank you. Mr. Gao, you have 30 seconds to respond to your opponent or to add to your previous comments.
To make it a process transparent, we should also make ourselves available to all the concerned parents, teachers, residents in the county. So we make us accessible. Anytime they have a question, they can talk to us, and then we will always directly communicate to them. And I think we also need to communicate to the teacher or to all the community.
Thank you.
Well.
Ms. Riggs?
I know I've really appreciated those members of the board who've served before that have been champions of making sure that people know what's going on in our schools and in with the board especially. And so I hope to emulate that as well, sharing whatever information that I'm able to share so that people can both know what's going on and also understand what's going on. And that's something that I've tried to do in my times as PTA president and as a community member that's engaged.
At this time, each of you will have 1 minute to make a closing statement to the voters. We will go in reverse alphabetical order and begin with Ms. Riggs.
All right. I want to thank our moderator, thank League of Women Voters and your partner organizations for putting together this forum today, and all the volunteers and those of you who've spent your time here with us this evening, and all those who will be watching at home. Thank you. Thank you for caring about public education. Thank you for caring about the bottom of the ballot as well. It is so important, and it makes such a difference. School for me, public education for me, was the source of opportunity. My family didn't have a lot to be able to put me into things, and I was so excited every time that I was able to participate in something, whether it was music or sports or after-school Spanish. Those things were provided by public education, and I want to make sure that every student in Howard County has the opportunity to participate in those things that are a part of a full and enriching education. I want to make sure that they have books to read that spark their imagination and expand their horizons. I want to make sure that our educators are supported, and I want to make sure that you are also a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Howard, Mr. Gao.
First of all, I want to thank you, our moderator, and also the organizer of this event. And I want to thank you for everybody to come here in person and or virtual online, because you spend your valuable time to learn about the candidate, and you care about education. I really appreciate. First of all, I want to mention that this Board of Education is a nonpartisan position, and I'm an affiliated voter running for this role. I have no party endorsement or support for the establishment. I listen to the voters whose voice often gets ignored. And I'm aim to serve everybody across the party lines, including those underrepresented by the current Board of Education incumbent and other candidates. My focus is solely on education, recruiting and retaining best teacher, ensuring the best learning environment, and providing top-tier education,
Thank you,
deliver
Mr. Gao.
bright future to our students.
Thank you. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Howard County and our partnering organizations, I want to thank the school board candidates for District 1 for sharing their views with us. This concludes the forum for District 1 candidates. The forum for District 5 will begin at 5:30. Thank you all.
Hi. Just a brief announcement. The League of Women Voters of Howard County regrets that we are unable to bring you an exchange between the candidates for election to the Board of Education from Districts 2 and 4. Unfortunately, Larry Wilkins Doyle of District 2 and Julie Kaplan of District 4 declined to participate in this forum this evening. Federal election and tax laws prevent us from presenting empty chair forums with a single candidate, so we are not allowed to offer Antonia Watts or Jen Mallow time to speak from the stage tonight. However, I know at least one of them is here in attendance, and you may talk with her or both of them in the lobby should you wish to do so. Thank you.
Hello. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Howard County's 2024 General Election Forum with candidates for the Howard County Board of Education. I am Valerie Montague of the League of Women Voters of Howard County, and I'm your host for this evening. The League, the Columbia Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and Iota Lambda Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, are pleased to co-sponsor this forum for Board of Education candidates running in November's general election. The general election is on Tuesday, November 5th, with early voting beginning October 24th through the 31st. Mail-in ballots may be ordered from the Board of Elections now and must be delivered or postmarked by close of business on November 5th, 2024. Questions designed to reflect the concerns of Howard County citizens were prepared by a committee, and each candidate will be asked all the same questions in turn. No questions will be taken from the audience tonight. After both candidates have answered the question, they will each have 30 seconds to respond to their opponent. Each candidate will then make a 1-minute closing statement at the end of their session. If you haven't already done so, please turn off your cell phones and any other recording devices at this time. No photography or recordings may be made at this session except by our videographer or credentialed members of the news media. And for your safety, please note the nearest exit. In the event of an emergency, Horowitz Center staff members will assist you. Thank you for joining us today. Our moderator for the forum for District 5 is Krista Threefoot. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you, Valerie. Good evening to our two candidates. Welcome, ladies. Good evening to everyone watching here and from afar. Welcome. We have two candidates competing for the open seat in District 5, Miss Andrea Chambly, and I told you I wasn't going to say Chambly, and I did, Andrea Chambly, and Miss Trent Kittleman. So I will read a brief introduction for each one of our candidates. Andrea attended Howard County Public Schools and graduated from Glen Elk High School in 1979. She attended the University of Maryland for her undergraduate and law degrees. She spent 35 years in food and drug safety compliance and has been teaching college students for over 20 years. After the horrific 2018 shooting at the Capitol Gazette in Annapolis that took her husband's life, Andrea became a gun safety activist and an expert on the impact of violence on children and educators. Andrea's activism resulted in new legislation that is keeping Maryland safer. Andrea is an active member of the Board of Education's Community Advisory Council and several Howard County PTAs. Her passion for education and dedication to safety drove her to enter the District 5 race for Board of Education. So welcome, Andrea. Trent, Ms. Kittleman, was elected to the Maryland House of Delegates in 2014 and served for the next 8 years, where she developed her passion for education. Having seen the problems inherent in the Maryland public education system, even in Howard County, she began writing a monthly newsletter. A Voice for Parents, and continued her 13-year participation as a judge for the 5th grade simulated congressional hearings program. From 2003 until 2007, Ms. Kittleman served as a gubernatorial appointee of Governor Robert Ehrlich, first as Deputy Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation. In this capacity, she served as Chief Operating Officer for the 9,300 employee omnibus department. 2 years later, she was asked to assume responsibility as President and CEO of the Maryland Transportation Authority, an independent state revenue authority. In this role, Ms. Kittleman was responsible for a staff of more than 1,600 employees, including 450 sworn police officers. As a lawyer, Ms. Kittleman practiced law for over 10 years that included serving as minority counsel for U.S. Senator Fred Thompson. Trent Kittleman, JD, CLC, is a Georgetown certified leadership coach and founder and managing partner of Gender Strategy, and author of Why Must There Be Dragons, a book to help the company train men and women to be better communicators in the workplace. She lives in West Friendship on a farmland preserved farm surrounded by the families of both her daughters and all of her grandchildren. Okay, we're ready to begin. The timers are seated in the center front row, just in front of the stage. When you see the 15 seconds warning sign followed by the red stop sign, please wrap up your answers. I will now ask you a series of questions. Each of you will have the opportunity to answer each question. You will have 1 minute to answer each question. After both have answered, you will each have 30 seconds to respond to your opponent or follow up on what has been said here tonight. And I will say, I know both of you are not shy shrinking violets, and if I forget to give you your 30 seconds, tell me, okay? Alrighty, so question 1. What actions will you take to address the impact that substance abuse in schools has had, especially related to learning, social development, and mental health? We'll start with Andrea.
I'm here for student safety, and substance abuse is a threat to student safety. We need to educate students about what is involved in whatever substance they're taking. We need to provide them with the mental and physical resources and support system so that they can avoid substance abuse and escape it if it affects their life. We need more resources for this. There are schools that don't have counselors, and there's class sizes are getting bigger. It's harder for teachers to recognize the signs of abuse, and I want to change that. And the reason I'm running is to make sure our students are safe from self-inflicted wounds as well as other dangers. Thank you.
Ms. Kittleman?
Excuse me. The impact of substance abuse in our schools it's a pretty well-known fact that what it can do to harm the students who are using drugs, but it also affects and harms all the other students who maybe have to use the bathroom, and they find that there are people smoking in the bathroom. That's something that I hear anecdotally. I looked, but I didn't find any facts on what's going on. I have to say that Howard County has an impressive array of policies and laws and programs to help kids, to encourage them not to do drugs, and programs if they happen to become hooked on drugs. But part of the problem is a problem that applies to almost every issue, and that is that we don't really follow up with kids who disobey. It's great to look at try to appeal to their better natures. But if that doesn't work, there has to be a penalty that stops them from repeating it. And until we are willing to do that, it's going to be difficult to, what did I say, 30 seconds? Okay, thank you. First time I saw that. It's going to be a bit difficult to get kids to stop doing things. I think we have a problem. We see human nature as well, actually, I think we don't really see human nature. I think that's part of the problem, that we need to recognize that human beings, we want to do what we want to do, and that to be negative is not always going to destroy a child.
Okay. Andrea, anything to add?
I worked for FDA for 34 years. I worked with the DEA, and I worked on drug approvals, and substance abuse can be the kind of things we saw and experienced when we were in school, and it can be brand new of drugs that are available and used off-label or taken from parents, medicine cabinets, or things like that. So I'm very aware of the dangers of drugs, and one of the problems is that kids hear stories about how cool they are and safe they are, and they don't hear enough about that educates them about how dangerous they are. Thank you. I would change that.
Ms. Kittleman, did you have your extra 30 seconds?
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. You have did you want to add 30 seconds to your?
And then she had a response.
And you are also allowed to have 30 seconds.
I do?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about this. I actually would second everything that Andrea just said. I think that's drugs are a problem everywhere, and I hope that Howard County schools can get a better handle on it.
Okay. All righty. Next question, and I will allow Ms. Kittleman to answer this first. How do we prevent weapons from being brought into school buildings and being used against others?
Well, that's interesting because after the Harford County shooting, I actually went online to listen to what their response was. Excuse me, and it was interesting. The president of the Howard County Board of Education had 3 suggestions. The first one was to explore the alternatives such as physical or electronic security methods. But the second one that he urged was enhanced discipline. And the third thing that he suggested was upholding rigorous standards for behavior and accountability. I think that that kind of thing really does make a difference in behavior across the board. There are schools in the state that have purchased and are using some of the newer electronic methods of scanning or finding guns. I think there's one called OmniAlert and one called Evolve Express and an Open Gate. And I think that those are programs that can do a good job without necessarily having a big metal detector in front of the schools. And I think that that is something that the school board is definitely going to have to look into, seeing if they can do. I think one of Howard County's biggest problems will be how do you protect the relocatable classrooms that we have so many of.
Andrea?
I'm your gun safety candidate. I am the only candidate in this district endorsed by Moms Demand Action and Everytown. When I lost my husband, I became a fellow with Everytown. Sometimes we consider ourselves the welcoming committee for new people who are destroyed by gun violence. I want to make sure that committee membership is closed. And one of the ways we do that is physical plant. We should have doors that lock every time, doors that shut and lock. But with the deferred maintenance that we've allowed to happen, we have $500 million in deferred maintenance, we have doors that don't work. We've been giving lip service to improving vestibules for every school so that people who are entering the schools have to go through a secure vestibule. But that doesn't work for the portables. You can go, if you can get into a portable, you bypass the vestibule. And that particularly bothers me because when the Annapolis Capitol was purchased by a venture capitalist, a strip and sell capitalist, they unmanned their vestibule and left the doors open. And that's how the shooter was able to get in. There was a desk for a guard. There were cameras with no one watching them and no one at the guard's desk. So simple things like a secure vestibule make an enormous difference, and we haven't put the resources in that we need, and I would change that. Thank you.
Ms. Kittleman, anything to add?
Isn't it a shame that we have to sit here and talk about this and spend money to protect our children in the schools? Gun violence is one thing. I think there are a number of things the legislature could have done. For example, if you commit a crime with a gun, it's not even a felony. We tried to get that passed a number of times, and it was defeated. But as far as the schools go, I think Howard County does a pretty good job. We do a good job at a lot of things. But there are a number of different entrances and exits, and again, the relocatable classrooms, to me, can be a real problem.
I'd like you to explore Ms. Kittleman's voting record. She voted against school budgets every time it arose when she was a legislator. She was on the Finance Committee. She could have championed these fixes for our school and did not. She voted against background checks so that people who are ineligible to buy guns can't go to Howard County's fairgrounds and buy one there. So school safety is my driving force. I've talked to parents who went to school on the final testing day with empty desks next to them from kids who were shot and killed. So that's not going to happen anymore when I get on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3. How would you ensure that our schools are welcoming and inclusive environments that support academic achievements for students, family, and staff from all backgrounds? Ms. Chambly?
There's lots of evidence on how to make people feel welcome, and school is a critical place for kids to thrive, and they do that when they feel safe and included and seen and heard. They need windows to look out onto the world, and they need mirrors to see themselves in that world. And inclusiveness is so important. If kids don't feel safe, they won't be able to learn. Their alarms are going off. They can't learn. If they don't feel included, they won't be able to learn. If they feel bullied, they can't learn. So I want to adequately enforce the wonderful procedures we have in place to make kids feel seen and heard and included. Thank you.
This is one of those issues that we have some different perspectives on. I think the first thing you do is you absolutely provide assistance to the kids who need it. And by that, I like things that our new state superintendent has proposed as far as reading goes. She's going to give extra help and do everything possible to get kids reading before 3rd grade. And she made the proposal that if they can't read by 3rd grade, hold them back. I know that's anathema to a lot of parents, but would they rather have their kids not learn to read? That will be modified, but you have to be able to get the kids to read. And the best way to do that is to believe the children can learn, expect them to learn, and hold them accountable. There's a wonderful school in Western Maryland called the Salem Elementary Academy. It is 100% poverty rate, worse than Baltimore City. A few years ago, this school scored higher than the state average on both the math and the English standardized tests. And this year, this school won a National Model School Award that's given out to only 28 schools. They're not afraid to perhaps give some negative feedback to kids. It's their approach that you give it is not their approach. It is ours, that we give students self-confidence so they can learn. Their approach is we give students learning so they develop self-confidence.
Here, 30 seconds.
I want to bring your attention to the fact that at least 47 books that have been approved by librarians, people who are professionals in child development, are being challenged right now to be removed from school libraries. These are the windows and mirrors I was talking about, where kids feel included when they find a story that tells the story of a person like them, a person who made it through whatever they were going through. And whether it's a tragedy at home or at school, as part of my fellowship with Everytown, the survivors share stories with each other. And to find out that somebody who went through what you're going through makes it to the end is really empowering and life-saving sometimes. Life-saving. This won't happen forever. And those 47 books are specifically designed to make kids feel included, and we need to make sure kids have those books available.
Ms. Kittleman?
In response to that last comment, this ongoing debate about book banning has sparked significant discussion, obviously, and controversy. Many parents are advocating for the removal of certain books from school libraries, mostly ones they believe are sexually explicit. There is a Supreme Court decision that if they are sexually explicit with no redeeming social value, that makes them pornographic. The issue is, are they or are they not? I respect these parents' rights to make that request, and there is a process for them going through that, and I will stop.
Moving on to question 4. What are the factors that should be considered for attendance area changes, and what should trigger that event? We'll start with Ms. Kittleman.
Could you repeat that?
Sorry. What are the factors that should be considered for attendance area changes, i.e. redistricting, And what should trigger that event? We'll start with Ms. Kittleman. Sorry, I'm losing my voice a little.
Living in the Western District, and we went through that horrendous redistricting process a few years ago that tried to move 7,000 students. I have a very simple approach to redistricting. The purpose of it is to balance out the schools that have too many kids with the schools that have extra space. And that is the only reason to do it, and it should be done as seldom as possible. And the primary consideration when you do that is keeping neighborhoods intact. This, it's critically important you do that. Parents across the board, the community revolves around the schools. And the medical community has noted that every time you move a child from one school to another, even if it's just going from elementary to middle or middle to high, it causes stress and it decreases their ability to learn when they first get there. So, unlike some of my legislators when we were discussing the issue, I very much hope and would like us to not redistrict unless absolutely necessary. Do I still have time? Okay. The other piece of that is that one of the things we have to do is try and get a public-private partnership so we can build schools like Prince George's did. 6 schools in 3 years. We do that, we can get rid of these relocatable classrooms, and we can have room for the students to be in a school building.
I went to Howard County schools. My parents moved into this county in 1963, and my mom was a school teacher here. I went to 5 different schools in 5 different zones over 5 years. And I went to Glenelg, and then when I was a sophomore at Glenelg, I was told I was being redistricted again. And I wrote a letter to the board, and they let me stay. My brother and sister, however, went to Atholton. And they had a great time at Atholton, but I tell you, that was very hard on my family. My parents lucked out when I got old enough to drive, so after I went to school, I had to go pick up my brother and sister. So it's very disruptive to communities to redistrict them. I've experienced that myself. It should be a last resort. Schools anchor communities. They bring families together. Kids play in the backyard together. They join the same teams together. They meet at each other's houses for sleepovers. And the schools shouldn't interrupt that, those lifetime friendships that can be forming. So if a school's over capacity and a new one is being built, then that's a great reason to take kids from the same neighborhood into the new school. But we do need to find new revenue streams for those schools and the maintenance for the existing schools. And I think nothing is off the table. The public-private partnerships, additional charges to new developers to help pay for the infrastructure that they're depending on.
Time.
Thank you.
Additional 30 seconds, Ms. Kittleman.
Yeah, I just will share one of my experiences, which partly makes me so against redistricting, and that was when I went to school. It was a bit of time ago, and we had junior high that went through 9th grade. So we only were going to have 3 years of high school, and our class was so big, they sent us to Johnny Cake Middle School and divided us, and we went half days. So when I got into high school, I had only 2 years, and I got to tell you, that was not a happy way to enjoy high school.
Additional 30 seconds, Ms. Chambly.
I thank you for the opportunity, but I don't have anything more to add. I don't want to disrupt our students whenever we can avoid it. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll move on then to question 5. How do you plan to address school start times and schedules in a way that balances the impact on student achievement, family schedules, and teacher retention? Start with Ms. Chambly. Sorry, teacher retention.
And start times?
Yes.
Well, first, I would say the evidence on changing start times is pretty clear. We should do it if we can. I know, again, that can be hard on families, so we have to get input from all our community members. The big problem with the start times that we tried to implement is that we added too many changes on with that, with the bus company and the start times in a new school and one school that had split its attendance between two. And one of the things I did at FDA was called change control. You don't introduce the chaos of all those changes at the same time. If something goes wrong, you can't really attribute it to one change or the other. You have to have a plan for implementing change. And I don't think the one we had served our community. So I'd like to re-explore the start time change, but in a more methodical, careful way, and with more transparency and more input from the community who's going to be affected.
Okay.
I haven't had grandchildren in high school, and I can tell you they don't do mornings. I know that they're very happy that they now have 20 more minutes of sleep. I think the first thing that we probably should do is, I don't know, poll or just find out from the community what they think. Is the 20 minutes enough for now? Do they want to go through another process? As Andrea said, processes can create havoc. And what do the kids think? So that would be the first thing. If there was an overwhelming desire to have the schools moved up to 8 a.m., and I'm talking about the high schools because that's where the problem initiated, and the reason that they want to change the school times. But the bus situation, as you all know, has to be addressed. I gotta tell you, my friend Gail Bates and I, we go out and sign wave at schools in the morning. And at the elementary school, I cannot tell you how many buses arrive at school with virtually no kids that we can see. And now I know they're short, but they're not that short. There's a lot of room to do things better with the bus system, even though it is working very well now. And I have a notion that parents don't want to mess with it. But I think it's something that, particularly if we change start times, is going to have to be looked into.
Additional 30 seconds.
I'll add that one of the things they did when they changed the start times is they expanded the walk zones. So the kids who are supposed to be able to get an extra 15 minutes of sleep have an extra 3/4 of a mile to walk to school. So it didn't work to give them that extra sleep. So the walk zones are still too big, and I think this is a special problem in communities all over Howard County, but I see it every day in where I live in Western Howard County. There's no place to walk. There's no place to ride a bike. It's very hilly, and the weather doesn't always cooperate. So we have to do something about the walk zones if we're going to change the start times. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more with Andrea. I think that the change to walkers was wrong. It wasn't safe, and it created all kinds of problems. In fact, at elementary schools, you would not believe how many parents are now driving their children to school, creating all kinds of traffic issues. The board has changed the walking distance a little bit, but it isn't going to go into effect until next year. But I think it needs to be cut back even further, and new ideas can be there can be an effort to have new ideas. Whoops, I'm at stop.
All righty, moving on to question 6. What is your plan for dealing with the deferred maintenance backlog on our aging school buildings to make them safe for students and staff? Go ahead, Ms. Kittleman.
I will start by saying what I said earlier. Prince George's County was able to get permission from the state legislature to have public-private partnerships for building schools. They were able to build 6 brand-new schools in 3 years. Now, in the legislature, I always was a bit skeptical of public-private partnerships, but this is an emergency and a crisis in Howard County. We have over, 250-some relocatables. We need to have more space, and we don't have the money to do it. The value in the P3s is that you don't have to put the money up front. They can be structured in many different ways, and I think it's very important as to how you structure and protect the county's interests. But with the situation we're in now, it's something that we have to consider very seriously. If we can do that, we should free up money that we can use to do some of the maintenance and get the maintenance done. And the final thing is there's a $779 million that the state has to spend I think within the next week, from the federal government, or they'll lose it and it's for schools. We ought to be talking with them saying, look, these should be one-time expenses. We need the money, we need to build, and we need to do some maintenance. And that would be one way that we might get some help.
Thank you. No option is off the table for building new schools, whether it's public-private partnerships. One of the delegates in Annapolis has a bill that would charge developers a stipend. So nothing's off the table. We're desperate for new schools. The Board of Education can't raise its own money, though. So what are we doing? We should be asking for every penny we need, which we haven't been doing. I mean, you saw it with the GT strings. We didn't ask for it, or there was a controversy about whether we should even ask for it. We need to ask for what we need. We need to lobby with the lawmakers who control our budget in Annapolis, and they've all endorsed me, and I want to work with them for those. Thank you.
Okay, additional 30 seconds.
The only other thing I would say is that we ought to be very, very rigorous in the future about using any one-time funds, any grants, any, hopefully there'll never be another COVID, but monies that the school system gets that's only going to have for 1 or 2 years, to use those for one-time expenses and not start new programs that will then need to be funded. So I think if we can do that, we can stop putting off maintenance and we can get the schools up to the caliber that they ought to be for the kids who go to school in Howard County.
We have to work with the legislator to find these funds. There's just no other alternative. We need to ask in the budget for everything we need. I've been endorsed by the entire District 9 delegation and by many others outside of District 9. These are the people who are going to listen to our pleas. And these are the people who I'm looking forward to working with, and they're looking forward to work with me to fix this problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. Moving on to question 7. What steps will you take to support transparency of and accountability for decisions made impact decisions, sorry, this is written, what steps will you take to support transparency of and accountability for decisions made impact school? Is there a different? Yes, address transparency. I'm not sure what I'm reading wrong or what word was not there, but yes. Transparency related to operations and finances. And we'll start with Ms. Kittleman.
We have lots of wonderful experienced intelligence in our county, and we have a lot of those volunteers on various committees, the PTA Advisory Committee, the Community Council, the Community Advisory Council. We have PTAs. We have all these great organizations that have information that they can share with us. The meetings should be public to the extent that there's not like a prohibited topic to discuss. They should be public. People should be able to contribute whatever way they can. We let them send in letters. We let them listen. We let them sign up to speak. But there's a whole bunch of ways people communicate now, and we should not make parents leave work early to come to a meeting to tell us what we need to know. We need to reach out. We need to go to the schools. When I went to schools here, I didn't miss a single football or basketball game. I was the girls' scorekeeper. I didn't miss a girls' game. You have to go to the schools where the families are and find out what they would say if they could come there. And I want to reach out to all those families, kids, also, and invite them to tell me about their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kittleman?
Ever since I decided to run for school board, which was back a year ago in July, I have been following the school board, watching the meetings. It's a lot easier to do that online because you can see and hear better. And I've also spent a great deal of time on the website. And I will tell you, I think pretty much anything that you want to know about the schools is actually on the website. The problem is you can't find it. It took me quite a number of months to figure out where certain information was. I think it's one of those things hidden in plain sight. So I think that the the effort behind the website is good, but it needs to be better organized. It needs a real site plan, the one that's listed there. I'm not sure what it does. And the most important thing, and I'm not sure how you do this, but I'm sure our IT guys can figure it out. We need to have like a Google quality search engine, because that is certainly missing. In fact, I often have to use Google to get what I need in our website. The other thing that I would say is the Board of Ed. It's been changing some of the things that it does in its meetings, all to the good. They do that so people can watch, and clearly they can be boring, and I know there are a lot of things that people aren't interested in, but I think that if there was a bit more conversation about issues and a little less of the formalities, for example, the consent agenda, we passed it. There are a whole bunch of things on there, and it's nice to know a little bit about what they are. They may be every time, but I think that if you expect and want to have parents be able to look in and see what's going on, that making the board meetings a little bit more user and watcher friendly would go a long way towards that.
Thank you. Anything
The webpage is hard to navigate, and if you wanted to find out something that someone else already asked to see, that under the Freedom of Information request, that is very difficult to find. So if you wanted to find out the titles of those 47 books that have been challenged, you'd have to find your way to the Freedom of Information website and see somebody else's request for that and the answer to that question. So it's difficult to navigate. But it's not the only way we can communicate. I mean, you can communicate with Amazon and give your driver a comment and a 5 stars. We need ways to let parents and families communicate the way they want to. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kittleman?
And, excuse me, and I agree. I think we need to listen more also to, to the teachers and the principals and the people who are actually in the schools. I think in the growing bureaucracy, a lot of that has been lost. At least that's what I hear from teachers and principals, and I think that makes a lot of sense. They're on the ground, they know what's going on, and they communicate with the parents much more frequently than either the website, I'm sure, or the central office. So I think there are a lot of things we can do, but I really would like to see the website fixed.
Alrighty. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Howard County, I would like to thank the school board candidates from District 5 for sharing their views with us today. This concludes the forum for the candidates for the Howard County Board of Education. Thanks to you ladies and all other candidates who joined us tonight. If you're still here in the audience, we really appreciate your willingness to support our forum, to educate our community members, and to serve in this capacity. Thank you. Residents can learn more about the school board candidates by reading the League of Women Voters of Howard County's voter guide, which just made its appearance today. We have copies outside. It's available in print. It will be coming to the library, to Howard County Community College, in the 50+ senior centers, various community centers, village centers, early voting locations, and also on vote411.org. This was recorded, and you will be able to view it online on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channels. So on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Howard County, the Columbia Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and Iota Lambda Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, thank you for watching. We encourage you to vote in the general election on Tuesday, November 5th, or during early voting from October 24th through the 31st, or by mail-in ballot. And remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Good night. Thank you.